waa tahay daawadayaal waxa aad daawanaysaan si toos ah halka shirka Soomaalida loogu qabtay ee magaalada London. Filimka daawanaysaan waxa lagu tusayay dadka wafuudda ka soo qayb galay dhibaatada Soomaaliya. dabcan waa film documentary laga soo diyaariyay Soomaaliya ayaad fiirsanaysaan. waxa wali aad daawanaysaan si toos ah halka uu ka dhacay shirka, waxaana markan soo fadhiistay dhammaan wafuuddii ka kala socday caalamka oo miis dheer wada fadhiya oo aad daawanaysaan. halka aad arkaysaan hadda screenka muuqda ee aad ka daawanaysaan muuqaalada dadka Soomaalida. waa barnaamij laga sameeyay dhibaatada dadka Soomaalida haysata ee la doonayo in la tuso dadka wafuudda ee ka soo qayb galay shirka. hooyo ayaa daawanaysaan oo ka hadlaysa dhibaatada iyo baahida ay qabto iyadoo joogta xeryaha qaxootiga. muuqaalada arkaysaan waa caruur iyo horumarka la rabo in la gaarsiiyo Soomaaliya iyo sida haatan ay tahay oo runtii laga hadlayo. waxaa filimkan fiirsanaya oo loo shiday wafuudda caalamka ka kala timid ee ka soo qayb gashay shirkan. ilaa 50 wafdi ah ayaa fadhiya oo ka soo qayb galay shirkan. waxaa la sugayaa goor dhow inay soo galaan madaxweynaha dowladda Soomaaliya mudane xasan sheekh maxamuud iyo ra'iisul wasaaraha dalka Ingiriiska David Cameron. wafuudda inta kale waa ay wada fadhiyaan. waxaa sidoo kale fadhiya halkan oo isla jooga xogayaha arrimaha dibadda William Hague. filimka daawanaysaan waxa uu ka shidan yahay halka uu ka socdo fadhiga shirka, waxaana loogu talagalay in la tuso dadka wafuudda ah ee ka soo qayb galay si arrimaha Soomaaliya ay wax kaga ogaadaan. wuxuu ku hadlayaa afka Ingiriisiga oo qoraal ah halkaas laga soo bandhigay. calaamada aad arkaysaan ee shaashada ka shidan waxa weeyaan shirka Soomaaliya ee ka dhacay London 7 May 2013. waxaad arkaysaan madaxweynaha dalka Uganda Yoweri Museveni oo kamid ah dadka lagu casuumay oo inay shirka ka soo qayb galaan. wafuudda ka soo qayb galay shirkan waxaa kamid ah bangiga horumarinta Afrika oo la yiraahdo African Development oo ah madaxweynaha African Development oo
we will support them every step of the way. The London conference last year
waxaad daawanaysaan documentary ama filimkii laga soo sameeyay dhibaatada Soomaaliya oo markaa loo shiday wafdiga si ay u arkaan xaaladda dhabta. filimkan oo la soo diyaariyay ayaa ka hadlaya dhinacyo badan oo madax badan ay ku jiraan, sidoo kalena lagu tusayo sawirro laga soo qaaday Soomaaliya. waxaa markan hadlaya madaxweynaha dowladda Soomaaliya xasan sheekh maxamuud oo filimka documentary-ga ka hadlaya. filimkaas oo loo shiday wafuudda si ay u sii daawadaan inta aan shirka bilaabin ka hor ay u ogaadaan xog dhaba oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya. sidoo kale waxaad arkaysaan waxaana dabcan ka soo qayb galay wafuud fara badan oo ilaa 50 wadan ah. waxaan jeclahay inaan idin dul maro wafuudda ka soo qayb gashay. waxaa kamid ah African Development Bank, bangiga horumarinta Afrika, dabcan waxaad arkaysaan wadanka madaxan African Development Bank ninka ka socdo ah madaxweynaha African Development Bank oo isna aad dhinaciisa u fadhiyo African Union ninka ugu sareeya. dhinaca kale haddii aan sii socdo waxaa ku soo xiga dalka Bahrain iyo dalka Australia. wuxuu fadhiyaa ninka gaarka ah oo special advisor oo kala taliyaha ra'iisul wasaaraha dalka Australia. waxaa ku sii xiga dalka Bahrain iyo Burundi. dalka Burundi waxaa fadhiya afhayeenka madaxweynaha dalka Burundi. sidoo kale waxaa ku sii xiga dalka Canada iyo wafdi ka socda oo ah baarlamaanka Canada xubin ka tirsan. waxaa sidoo kale shirka ka soo qayb galay dalka China oo ah nin matalaya si gaar ah special envoy ah oo ka socda dalka China. waxaana sidoo kale ka mid ah wafuudda dalka Djibouti madaxweyne Cumar Gelle. madaxweyne Ismaaciil Cumar Gelle ayaa isna ka mid ah wafuudda ka soo qayb gashay. waxaa markan hadalka bilaabay ra'iisul wasaaraha dalka Britain David Cameron.
To help the Somali people to reclaim their country. And today, I think we are seeing the beginnings of a new future for Somalia. Extremism is in retreat. AMISOM, together with Somali and Ethiopian forces, have driven al-Shabaab out of town after town. Piracy attacks are down by 80%, with no vessel attacked so far this year. Government is moving ahead. Under the guidance of the UN and the African Union and IGAD, the transitional government that lasted 8 years has ended, and now there is a proper, legitimate and federal government in its place. And Somalia doesn't just have a new president, but also a new parliament chosen by representatives of all clans. The international community has kept the promises that we made last year. The UN Security Council resolution extended the mandate of African Union forces beyond Mogadishu and increased their numbers. Mauritius and the Seychelles have taken pirates for prosecutions, and 59 convicted pirates have been transferred to prisons in Somaliland and Puntland. And we're working together relentlessly to disrupt the travel and the financing of terrorists in the region. But the transformation in Somalia that we've seen has not happened just because 50 countries sat round a room and a table like this in London last year and somehow decided Somalia's future. This change has happened because of the vision of President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and his team, and because of the strength and courage of the Somali people in beginning the long and difficult task of rebuilding their country from the bottom up. But for all the progress that we've seen, huge challenges lie ahead. Somalia still faces desperate poverty. Over 200,000 children under 5 are acutely malnourished, and just under half of all Somalis live on less than $1 a day. Despite the gains made against al-Shabaab, the recent tragic and despicable attacks in Mogadishu, including one just last weekend, remind us how much work there's still to do in the fight against terrorism and extremism. Now, these challenges are not just issues for Somalia. They matter for Britain too, and for the whole international community. Why? Because when young minds are poisoned by radicalism and they go on to export terrorism and extremism, the security of the whole world, including people here in Britain, is at stake. And to anyone who says this isn't a priority or we can't afford to deal with it, I would say that is what we've done in the past, and look where it has got us: terrorism and mass migration. We made that mistake in the past, not just in the Horn of Africa, but also in Afghanistan in the 1990s. We must not make that mistake again. Today, nearly two-thirds of Somalis are under 25, but most young people don't join al-Shabaab because they believe in its perverted version of Islamist ideology. They do it because they are desperate for a few dollars and a mobile phone. So helping young Somalis to escape grinding poverty is not just vital for the future of Somalia, it's also the best antidote to the extremism that threatens us all. Somalis make a great contribution to our country here in the UK, and their remittances play a valuable role in Somalia. But many would like to return to rebuild their own country. We need to make it safe for them to do just that. Now let me turn to how I hope we can do that today. Supporting a new future for Somalia starts with the humanitarian relief that is so vital in alleviating some of the worst poverty anywhere on earth. I'm pleased that Britain is playing a leading role and saving lives and helping Somalis build resilience to future crises, and I hope others will follow. But Somalia's new future depends on more than humanitarian assistance. It's about the Somali government providing the security, the stability and services that are essential for people to secure jobs, to start new businesses, and to provide for their families. That means supporting what I've called the golden thread of development, the set of key conditions that are essential for growth all over the world. These encompass basic security for all, including the protection of women against sexual violence. That means a military that is effective and respects human rights. It means a police force that people run towards, not away from. And it means a justice system that is fair, dependable, and accessible to all who need it. It requires a government that is transparent and accountable in its use of resources, and inclusive and representative of all parts of society. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud is today setting out his plans in each of these areas, and I hope that as an international community we can get right behind him. First, I hope that together we can back a long-term security plan to end al-Shabaab's reign of terror forever. I'm pleased that Britain will commit £10 million to help develop Somalia's armed forces and £14.5 million to double the number of police officers and to train judges and lawyers. Britain will also support the new maritime strategy, enabling full radio connection all along the entire coastline for the first time in 20 years. I hope that others here today will contribute too, and that countries in the region will stay the course and work with Somalia while it builds up its own forces. Second, we need to help Somalia develop a transparent and accountable government with an honest and accurate budget so that it can access the vital finance it needs to deal with its debts and to provide services to her people. Under the previous government, Somalia struggled with endemic corruption, so I very much welcome the commitment to public accountability that the President has made and the plan he is setting out here at this conference. Tomorrow we'll see a major international trade and investment conference with companies from all over the world looking at Somalia as a place to do business. But for investment to flow and for jobs to be created, people need to know where their resources are going. The international community must send a strong signal to the international financial institutions about the need to follow the World Bank's lead and help Somalia to deal with its debts and to access the vital finance that it needs. And I will seek support for this from my G8 partners when we meet at Lough Erne in Northern Ireland next month. Third, we must support the new Somalian administration as it takes the next steps in delivering a fully federal government in which everyone has a stake and a voice. That means continuing the process of rebuilding the Somali state in an inclusive way with all the regions of Somalia around the table. It means reaching beyond Mogadishu so all parts of the country see a demonstrable benefit from the new government and moving towards the ultimate goal of national elections in 2016, which we discussed this morning. And while Somalia must focus relentlessly on fighting terrorism, it will not bring its people together through military might alone. So there will need to be an opportunity for those who are willing to reject violence and to turn away from al-Shabaab to join the political process. Mr. President, I know that you face one of the most difficult tasks of any leader anywhere in the world, but it's only by bringing the people of your country together and by delivering the security, stability and services essential for jobs and growth that you can deliver the new future for Somalia that is within your grasp. For our part, let me assure you, we as your friends and partners will stand with you as you rebuild your country. We know that Somalia's future will be shaped by Somalia and with Somalia. This is not something being done to Somalia. Today you're setting out your plans for your country. Our task is clear, to get behind you and your plans. That is what we will do. In her book entitled Keeping Hope Alive, Dr. Hawa Abdi, the physician and Nobel Peace Prize nominee, wrote about her time in the midst of Somalia's darkest hours. She said, "Hope is what remains as we wait for peace, even as we bleed and we starve. It may be that right now we are living for hope." Today, after 2 decades of bloodshed and some of the worst poverty on earth, Hope is alive in Somalia. Now it's time to fulfill that hope for the people of Somalia. That is what they've been living for and waiting for, and we must not let them down. Thank you very much indeed, and I'd now like to introduce the President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. A few weeks ago, I planted a young sapling tree in the gardens at Villa Somalia in Mogadishu to raise the issue of deforestation. And it got me thinking, what does a young sapling need for it to grow into a strong, healthy tree? It needs to be supported with a strong stake, it needs to be watered and fed, and it needs to be protected from animals that try to eat it, so it is soft bark and kill it. And so it's with this young sapling we have all planted together, call it Somalia. We need support, we need assistance and investment, and we need protection from those who try to knock us over. The first period of growth is always the most hazardous, where the most support and protection is needed. But as the bow thickens and strengthens, the tree needs less and less support until finally it stands broad and tall and strong, all on its own. My vision for a federal Somalia at peace with itself and its neighbors, and which poses no threat to the world, a Somalia with a resurgent economy, thriving small and medium-sized business ventures and sustainable employment so that families are properly provided for. A Somalia with values of kindness, respect and human rights, all underpinned by an education system that harness our intellectual spirit. So we are here today to begin a 4-year process that must begin with a considerable investment and support, but which I hope will finish with very little. Heads of states and governments, excellencies, ambassadors, special representatives, honored guests, the Prime Minister and I welcome you to the second Somalia Conference in London. Mr. Prime Minister, I wholeheartedly thank you and your government for your personal engagement in shaping our future and for your support in hosting this great conference. I particularly congratulate you for reopening your embassy on our soil in Mogadishu after more than 2 decades' absence. People may ask why Somalia matters at this time, but there is a huge amount at stake right now. The future of our country, the security of the region and the world at large, and the removal of the piracy stranglehold on the Gulf of Aden. I know you all understand this, and I fully appreciate the political capital being invested to support Somalia. Since the last meeting held here in London more than a year ago, more has been achieved than anyone would have ever imagined. In just 1 year, the cornerstone of a new Somalia have been successfully and peacefully laid down. The political transition has ended, and I stand here as the elected president of a sovereign nation with an elected speaker leading a new parliament, representative of all the regions and all the clans and communities, and with a legitimate and effective government, delivering 6-pillar policy framework, the foundations of a new beginning in Somalia. Progress has defied the skeptics. Somalia has rejoined the world of communities. Under my leadership, we offer the world a legitimate partner you can trust, hard at work to deliver an integrated national security plan, economic reform, and a new financial management system, rule of law and judicial reform, an environment conducive to commercial growth. We are achieving real progress week by week, month by month, but challenges do remain. Despite being militarily defeated, Al-Shabaab have melted into the society and began a new phase of insurgency and a campaign of terror. an experience I know that Great Britain comprehends as well as any other. Our Constitution is only partially complete. Piracy must come to an end. Millions of Somalis still live in desperate conditions as refugees in neighboring countries and as internally displaced persons in their own country. And we lack developed government institutions, schools, hospitals, roads, sanitation, and other basic services. As you will hear over the coming hours, however, we came to London to share with you our detailed plans to address these challenges. We are building our armed forces. We are restructuring and developing our police force. We are reforming our justice sector. And we are revolutionizing our public finance management systems. We are driving Somalia from emergency to recovery and from recovery to development and reconstruction. Ultimately, however, it will be a Somali-owned solution that will fix Somalia. But no country has ever recovered from such social and economic collapse without the help of the world. And so, in partnership with our endeavors, we respectfully ask for your total and unflinching commitment, partnership, and support to Somalia. We hope that you will agree how you can support the implementation of our plans and put an end to our dependence on the international community. The federal government of Somalia has laid down the foundations for a new public finance management mechanism, which we believe will enable our donors to agree funding arrangements with the confidence that funds will reach their intended recipients. The progress that has been made in Somalia over the past 3 years would not have been possible without the courageous support of IGAD, the African Union, our brothers and sisters in AMISOM, and the ultimate sacrifice made by many brave African soldiers. We owe to it their memory to ensure that we do not take one single step backwards. The progress that has been made in Somalia over the past 3 years would also not have been possible without the committed support of the United Nations, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. We owe it to the publics who contribute to these governments and institutions to see this process through a conclusive conclusion. We are also indebted to the kindness and generosity of countries like Turkey, Norway, the Arab League, member states, and other countries. Your assistance over the past few years has spread hope and belief among our people. We welcome ANSOM, the new United Nations mission in Somalia, and we are grateful for the consultations offered in agreeing both the mandate and the appointment of the new SRSG in Somalia. We congratulate His Excellency Mr. Nicholas K. on his appointment as the new SRSG. We are looking forward to receiving him and the new UN mission in Mogadishu soon. I wish to thank Ambassador Mahiga, the outgoing SRSG, for his relentless and determined effort in leading the design of the roadmap and seeing the transition through. Our best wishes and tribute go to him. The people of Somalia are eternally grateful. Winning the war in Somalia has been proven. Winning the peace in Somalia will take patience and great skills. We are at a critical junction. The time is now. We have little time today and lots to achieve. All of us, especially those in the background who have worked so hard to make this conference happen, will want to depart with a real sense of progress. I thank you all for coming and for your dedicated support for Somalia. Together, we can make Somalia strong again. A tree standing tall in the African bush with deep roots binding it securely to its region and offering shade and protection to its people as they rebuild their lives. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And we're now going to hear from the President of Ethiopia. Sorry, Prime Minister of Ethiopia.
Excellency, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Excellency, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the warm and friendly welcome accorded to my delegation in the great city of London. Let me also take this opportunity to express my gratitude on behalf of my government and that of IGAD to the initiative made by His Excellency David Cameron to organize this gathering for the second time in as many years with a view to finding lasting solutions to a region and a country that has been